Hey there, it's Harit from Bonsai Labs. Welcome to the series on JavaScript. Today in this video, we are going to learn 3 most common ways of using for loops in JavaScript. So let's dive in. There are 3 common ways of writing for loops, using for in, and for of. Let's look at each one of them one by one. The for statement creates a loop that consists of 3 optional expressions, enclosed in parentheses and separated by semicolons, and it is followed by a statement. It starts with the initialization, it is followed by the condition, and the final expression. Within the body of the for loops, we execute one or more statements. So let's start with an example. Let's say we create a variable called I with the initial value of 0. Before any code could be executed in the loop, a condition is checked. So in our example, we check that the value of I should be less than 10. And after every loop execution, the final expression is evaluated. So we increment the value of I after every loop. Right now in the statements, we are printing the current value of I in the loop. Let's see that in action. So let's create our for loop now. So as you see, we have created a for loop with the variable identifier called I. We check in the condition that the value of I should be less than 10. We are incrementing the value of I by 1 after every loop. And in the body, we are printing out the current value of I. Let's go ahead and run that. So as you see, when we run the for loop, we get the values from 0 to 9. It did not print out the value of 10. Why? Because our condition said that the value of I should be less than 10. When we initialize the identifier I, we use the keyword called var. The challenge with var is when you initialize a variable using a var keyword, the variable identifier is created in the global scope. Let me tell you what I mean. So as you see, I'm trying to print the value of I after the for loop has executed. And when we run it, you see a value of 10, which means even though we wanted the value of I to be used only inside the for loop, the variable was created in the global scope, and that's the reason we were able to get the value of I even outside of the for loop. Now, this may not be desirable. So what should you do? So instead of using a var keyword to initialize the variables, you should use let keyword. So let initializes the variables in the block scope, which means once the for loop completes execution, the variable I will no longer be accessible. Let me show you what I mean. So when I run the example, it printed out all the values from 0 to 9, but when we try to print the value of I outside of for loop, the variable I did not exist. So it is better and safer to introduce your new variables using the let keyword. Now the other type of for loop is a for in loop. A for in statement iterates over all enumerable properties of an object, consists of 2 parts followed by the statements. It starts with the object over which you want to iterate. It assigns every property of an object to a variable, and it is separated by the in keyword. And within the body, you can have one or more statements. So let's say we have a weekdays object which consists of 7 properties with the associated numeric values. So we want to iterate over the weekdays object, and for every object, we want to assign it a property called property. Now this property, when the loop starts, would contain only the property keys and not the values. And within the body, we are printing out what the property key is. Let's see that in action. So we have a weekdays object here with 7 properties. Now we will use for in loop to iterate over the properties. So as you see, we are iterating over weekdays, and within every loop, we are getting the property inside the p variable, and we are printing that variable on the console. Let's run it. So when you run, you see all the properties printed on the console and not their associated values. So the for in loop iterates only over the property keys of an object. It does not iterate over the values. The third kind of for loop is a for of loop. A for of loop iterate over iterables. Iterables are nothing but the objects that can be iterated upon, such as arrays, string, map, set, and for every part of the loop, the variable gets the value from these iterables. And within the body of the for statement, you can have one or more statements doing something with these values. So for example, we can have a myIterable object which has iterable properties, And for every iterable, we take the values and we put that in a variable called value. And within the statements, we are printing out the value on the console. Let's see that in action. So string is iterable in JavaScript. So we have created a variable called iterable and assigned it a value of a string called Bonsai Labs. So let's iterate over the iterable using the for of loop. So as you see, we are using a for of loop and we are iterating over the iterable object. For every loop, we are putting the value inside the variable called v, and all we are doing is printing out the value on the console. Let's run it. So as you see at the output, since a string is an iterable, the for of loop picked every character of the string and printed that out on the console. Now we know that even the arrays are iterable. So how about we iterate over the arrays using the for of loop? So I've changed the value of iterable from string to an array, and it contains 4 elements as we see here. We are using the same for of loop to iterate over the array now. So let's run it and see the output. So as you see, at this point in time, the for of loop iterated over every element of the array, and every element became one element when printed on the console. We know that even set is an iterable. So can we iterate over a set using a for of loop? Let's try that. So I've changed the code so that our iterable is no longer an array, but a set, and it contains 3 elements inside the set. And we are using the same for of loop to print the values inside the set on the console. Let's run them. So as you see, as expected, the for of loop printed every element of the set on the console one by one. So the question is, what's the difference between for of and for in? So the for of iterates over all the values of your iterables, and for in only iterates over the keys of the properties and not on the values. So when you have a use case of iterating over the iterables, ask yourself whether you are only interested in the keys of the properties or you are interested in all the values. And that will help you decide whether for in or for of is a good choice. And that's it. If you do like the video, please hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more awesome content. Thank you.